Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Josie's Point of View, where we focus on human interest stories from the Carolinas and beyond. Today it's Monday and it's October the 27th, 2025. Thank you so much for tuning in.
If you're new to my channel, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find the information here to be informative. And if you're a returning viewer, by all means, thank you for coming back. I always say the tide changes so frequently on these YouTube streets. So you always have to acknowledge where your support comes from. And I want you to know I sincerely thank you for your support. Feel free to like and to share this video. And don't forget to subscribe.
And our story today comes from the city of High Point here in North Carolina. Take a look at the headline. And it reads, North Carolina legislator arrested on child sex charges.
I'll provide you with a summary here, and as always, I'll place links to a few of the full articles in the description box.
Now, here at Josie's Point of View, we are not a political channel. We do not focus on politics, but however, we will focus on the issues. And one of our area of concentration is on child sex crimes, even when politicians are involved. And today we're talking about Cecil Brockman, a 41-year-old Democratic representative from Guilford County here in North Carolina, who's currently serving his sixth term in the North Carolina House of Representatives. He was first elected back in 2014, so he's been an elected official for over a decade and narrowly retained his seat during this past election year. No, but we're not here to discuss his political ambitions, but rather a set of poor decisions and criminal misconduct that has left him facing the possibility of some serious time behind bars, and calls from both political parties demanding that he either resign or face being removed from office. And that's because Representative Brockman was recently arrested for crimes that has sent shockwaves through the North Carolina Assembly. The sixth-term member of the North Carolina House of Representatives was arrested 2 weeks ago and charged with 2 counts of indecent liberties with a child, as well as 2 counts of statutory rape of a child 15 years or younger. Investigators said the child in question just turned age 15 this past June. Now, reports say it was Brockman who created the situation that got himself arrested in the first place, and it shows that sometimes there is the perception that status in the community would overrule the laws of the state. Maybe that works sometimes, but not in this case. Reports say it was him who placed a 911 call to High Point Police trying to find a minor, the minor in question. Now, he described that minor to the dispatcher as a friend. He said he was looking for a friend. And that time he was tracking the minor's phone using a location sharing app. And it appears the minor in question was located by police in a nearby hospital. And at some point, the High Point Police Department contacted the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation and shared their concerns about Brockman and prompted an investigation. Now, it was never disclosed why the teenager was in that hospital, and that's for a number of reasons. One, the hospital stays covered by HIPAA laws or privacy laws, and also the age of the child, a 15-year-old juvenile. So that part of the incident we will never find out. But what eventually came to light painted Brockman as a predator of the worst kind. But it was disclosed that Brockman and the teenager were more than just friends, and by his action he was desperate to make contact with the individual, probably because there was incriminating evidence he knew could land him behind bars. And even though there are many portions of this case that will not be disclosed publicly, it was revealed that Brockman and the teenager met on a dating app some time ago when the teen had been living in Atlanta. It was further reported that Brockman and the teen lived together in an apartment in Atlanta before moving to an apartment in High Point, and that took place in August. And I'm sure there was a lot of denial going on. But based on what the teenager apparently told police, they had Brockman under their radar screen. It was reported that when police searched her electronic devices, they found 14 videos showing the victim engaged in various sex acts, and in some of those videos, Representative Cecil Brockman was identified as a participant. So police now had electronic evidence, evidence that could not be disputed. And there's more. It appears that Representative Brockman was relentless in his efforts to reach that victim even while she was hospitalized. It was reported that he attempted to contact the minor multiple times, including through the use of a third party. Also, they say once he found out where the victim was, he attempted to push his way through a locked hospital door in order to reach her. He was desperate, probably wanted to convince her to be quiet, allegedly, but it didn't work because that's the point at which he was arrested. And so he was arrested and charged with 2 counts of indecent liberties with a child and 2 counts of statutory rape of a child who is between the age of 13 and 15 years old. At the time of his arrest, initially he was denied pretrial release, so he was held without bond until the bond hearing, which was scheduled for a few days later. Prosecutors argued that bond should be formally denied because of his influence in the community and he had access to people and to resources. They considered him a flight risk for that reason. And they also stated that if for some reason bond was considered, that it should be a very high bond. And prior to his scheduled court appearance for that bond hearing, it was reported that he suffered a medical emergency and the bond hearing had to be postponed. Now, the reason or the explanation, or no explanation really, was given for what type of medical emergency he suffered, but it did say he had to be hospitalized. So the bond hearing was rescheduled, and then he did appear via Zoom a few days later, but because he was still in the hospital for that bond hearing. It was stated that he repeatedly tried to interrupt the judge, asking to read a written statement he had prepared, and each time the judge told him that he needed to speak with his attorney. But at that hearing, the judge assigned him a bond of $1,050,000, and Representative Brockman was instructed that should he make bond, he was forbidden from having any contact with the victim, whether it's directly or indirectly, which means not even through a third party, not just the victim, but the victim's family as well, not through a third party, not through a social media app, or in person. And his next court appearance was scheduled for November the 13th. And the judge also told him that if he's convicted of the charges, that he could be facing up to life in prison. And once the news of Representative Brockman's arrest became public and the charges became public, there was swift condemnation from both political parties. Friends and adversaries all began to publicly express their disgust, and the common theme that was being echoed was that Brockman needed to move on. He needed to disappear. They wanted him gone. And here's part of the statement from the Republican Party. It says the North Carolina Republican Party releases this statement. These allegations are aberrant. And aberrant means they're disgusting. It means they're repulsive. If true, there is no place in public service now or in the future for someone accused of these heinous crimes. And that was from the Republican Party. And the Democratic Party, to include the governor of North Carolina, Josh Stein, has come out publicly sharing their concerns and insisting that Representative Brockman needed to resign his seat in the House immediately. They say that the seriousness of the crimes makes it impossible for him to represent his community. And I heard that as long as he's in jail, he cannot vote on any pressing issues in the House. And in the most recent update on this situation, it appears that steps are already underway to remove Representative Brockman from office. One report stated that a bipartisan committee was being formed to review all of the charges against him and determine whether he should be expelled. The committee would review the evidence and give Brockman and his attorney a chance to respond. And if the entire House votes to expel him, then Governor Stein would then have the opportunity to appoint a replacement to complete Brockman's remaining term in office. And prosecutors are saying they're not exactly finished with Representative Brockman. They said the investigation continues, and it's possible that he could be facing additional charges in the near future. And it makes me wonder whether there are additional victims out there who've yet to come forward. And here's some information I think you might find very interesting. It was from WFMY News 2, that news channel, and they states that earlier this year, Cecil Brockman was evicted from his High Point apartment. That back in April, he was evicted from that apartment. The rent is just about $970 a month, and apparently he owed over $2,600 in rent and fees. So what's really going on with Cecil Brockman? Is he not making enough money to sustain himself? How come he can't afford to pay his rent? Now, I did a search and it shows that his monthly pay is around just short of $1,200, which is really not a whole lot of money, but it's enough for him to cover his rent. Any connection with those 14 sex videos? I'm just asking. But does he have additional problems that the public is not aware of? Again, not making any accusations, but you can't help but wonder whether or not there's something else that's going on with him that the public needs to know. And just in case you're wondering about my personal opinion on this matter, it should not surprise you. I personally don't care if he's an elected official or not. And if the charges are true, then he's just another child predator, and that's the way he should be treated. No special treatment here, prosecutor, because when you do, then you become part of the problem rather than the solution. You see, power and influence cannot give these elected officials a stamp of approval so they can continue to abuse and to violate our children. It's only when they get caught now they want you to care. Well, we don't. We don't care today, and we won't care tomorrow. We simply don't care, and as a lawmaker, hold him to a higher standard. Shacking up with a 14-year-old, he should be ashamed of his damn self. And then when you finish with him, go find the parents and lock them up as well, because we as a community have simply had enough.
And that's all I have for you right now, but feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video, and by all means, feel free to like it and to share it. And if you haven't done so already, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on the bell that looks like just like this one, that's the notification bell. If you click on that notification bell, you'll be the first to know whenever a new video is uploaded. I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.